Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today we are talking about how to write a scientific paper. Actually, when you graduated as a postgraduate student or become a lecturer, so you feel that you will be in the high rank or you reach at a level that you will be stable or you feel satisfied. Actually, that's not right. It is the beginning of your research. I consider it as you just get the certificate only. That's not true. When you graduated, you mean that you start your research. Now you become a researcher. So you need to write papers, research paper. Today, I try to show you how to write a research paper. We start with this introduction. We explain what the meaning of scientific experiments and a scientific paper. A scientific experiment is not complete until the results have been published. It means that without publishing, it is not a scientific paper. Because a scientific paper is a written and published report describing original research results. This is the idea. What is the scientific writing? The purpose of scientific writing is to communicate new scientific findings. The origins of scientific writing. Here the knowledge is lost without written records. Without registration, without recording, we will not get any information, of course. So cave paintings and inscriptions were the first attempts to leave records. This is the first attempt of recording in cave. About 2000 BC, papyrus paper اللي هي أوراق البردي مثل ما نعرفها, as we know, was used in the south of Iraq. So we are the first. We used the writing or recording, written records, as a medium of communication. In 190 BC, parchment made from animal skin came into use. Also in 105 AD, the Chinese invented paper after that. Actual knowledge could not be widely circulated with no effective duplication. So if you need or to write, so you need to get the information. Actually, after that, in 1100 AD, the Chinese invented movable type. In 1455 AD, Gutenberg printed his 42-line Bible from movable types on printing press. By the year of 1500,000 of copies of hundreds of books called incunabula were printed. In 1665, the first scientific journals were published. After this historical period, we move now to a story of the story of scientific papers. Here, the first letters of these things, here we call it, ا.م.د, I for introduction, M for methods, R for results, and D for discussion. This is called by ا.م.د story. The first or early journals published was descriptive papers. The meaning of descriptive papers here, in case of writing reports or you want to make survey, we use descriptive language. By the second half of 19th century, reproducibility of experiments became fundamental principle of the philosophy of science. After that, the methods section became all important since Louis Pasteur confirmed the germ theory of disease. So we need to use method. ا.م.د organization of a scientific paper started to develop at that time. So we need to explain more details, we need discussion, we need result, we have result and discussion. So we developed the ا.م.د. The ا.م.د format slowly progressed in the latter half of the 19th century. The ا.م.د format, as I told you, I for introduction, the meaning of introduction, what question problem was studied. This is the meaning of introduction. If we want to write introduction, later we give more details about each one. M, اللي هي methods, how was the problem studied? R, results, what are the findings? And D, discussion, what do these findings mean? Okay, the organization of a scientific paper. So the most common is the ا.م.د if a number of methods were used to achieve directly related result, M plus R, means called experimental section. Also, the results are so complex that they need to be immediately discussed when we use R plus D, here result and discussion section. So when you mix these things, we get, when you mix M and R, so we get it experimental section. If we mix R, here result and discussion, we get complex that need to be immediately by result and discussion section. Now what is a scientific paper? Again, a scientific paper is a written and published report describing original research results. This is the meaning of a scientific paper. It must be the first publication of the original research results in a form whereby peers of the author can be repeat the experiment and test the conclusion, and in a journal or other source documents readily available with the scientific community. So, again, you need to publish or first publication of original research results, so it will be scientific paper. This is the idea. Now we move to definition of a scientific paper. So an accepted original scientific publication containing scientific information to enable peers to assess observation, to repeat experiments, to evaluate intellectual processes, must have an impact, available to scientific community without restriction. 6, available for regular screening by one or more of the major recognized secondary services, for example, biological abstract, index medicus, PubMed, etc. So, we need some important language points. So, each element of scientific paper built by another component. So if you have brilliant writing, so poor writing can mask brilliant experiments. And poor experimentation cannot be masked by brilliant writing. You understand me? So each one depends on other. So you need to be completed. You need to complete your action or your writing. We need to avoid complex sentence structure. We have to use easy and simple language and clear. We need to show the main idea. Some things, if you use complex language that show you are well qualified, this is not a good idea. Use simple and clear language or English. And always keep in mind the paragraph is the essential unit of thoughts. As you know, any text contains of a group of paragraphs. Each paragraph contains one idea. Don't jump from one idea to another, no. Each paragraph concentrates on one idea. When you finish this paragraph, you move to another paragraph. The previous one support another until you get the conclusion. And we need to explain to you later in another lecture how to use the language or the right language. I concentrate on the grammar. Salam. Yes, welcome. Before starting to write the paper, first you need to record your readings. Make tables, draw graphs, keep file to record summaries of result and any observation, however significant, date the files. Revise your readings. You may need to repeat experiment while you still have the materials. Write ideas whenever they come to you. This is one of the most important things. Sometimes we call it a glance in your mind. So you have to keep it. Record, write, anyway, because sometimes you need it when you want to revise the idea. It is difficult for you if you don't register this idea. So this is the way of starting, or how to, before starting your paper. Now we move to essential parts of a scientific paper. These are the elements of writing research paper. The title, Later, we explain in details each one of these components. We start with title, then abstract, introduction, materials, methods, result, discussion, summary, acknowledgement, references. These are the components of or parts of a scientific paper. We start with the title. Title is one of the most important things in your research paper. A good title is defined as the fewest possible words that adequately describe. I put it in red color. Why? The contents of the paper adequately describe. We use the exact words. The title is extremely important and to be chosen with great care, as it will be read by thousands, whereas few will read the entire paper. So, if your title is not good or not completed, they will not read your paper. So better, they say better than the entire paper. Indexing and abstracting of the paper depends on the accuracy of the title. So it is very important. If your title is not good, not completed, not adequately described, so your paper will get lost and will never be read. So you need to pay attention to the title. Title should neither be too short nor too long as to be meaningless. Also, we read waste words in the title. Studies on, investigation on, and etc. These are what should not be used. Don't use it in your title. Avoid. Sometimes they send to you a paper or a thesis you needed to edit. So try to avoid these words. Put underline, don't use this word, don't use studies on, investigation on, etc. It's a lot of, we call it waste words. Syntax, word order must be very careful considered. It should contain the keywords. You know the keywords? You need to write the keywords in your research paper. These are what reflect the contents of the paper. It should be meaningful and not general, just the exact word. It should be concise, specific, and informative. It should capture the fundamental nature of the experiment and findings. Example, you see here action of antibiotics on bacteria. Not investigation of action of, no. Or studied by something, blah, blah. That's waste words. I consider the title is an umbrella of your research paper. You cover with a few words. Cover all your research by these few words, not long, not short. And these examples of titles. You see here, instead of use some words, studied by, we put this colon. Action should be defined, should be listed, antibiotics should be listed. You see here? This is explanation of, this is another example, and so on. How to prepare the title? First, make a list of most important keywords. This is the first step. Think of a title that contains these words. The title should state the conclusion of the paper. The title never contains abbreviation. Don't put abbreviation in the title. Chemical formulas, proprietary names, or jargon. Any terms, don't put any terms, difficult terms. Rethink of the title before submitting the paper. You need to rethink. Be very careful of the grammatical errors due to fault word order. Avoid the use of word using. Also, don't put using gunna. Also, these words are waste words. Sometimes the common mistake of using title before we move to abstract. We have more than one adjectives. And also we have another problem of using of. You know, and we use S possessing الملكية, S الملكية we call it, instead of using of. Sometimes they use of, then of. This is also, it is common mistakes. The original or standard English, they don't prefer using the study of English of blah, 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 cannot. Better use adjective, another adjective, then the name. And also we have more details. We don't have time to show that, but now we move to the abstract. الملخص, we call it summary, or an abstract can be defined as a summary of the information in a document. It is the fundamental importance that the abstract be written clearly and simply, as it's the first and sometimes the only part of the manuscript read. As you know, we move directly to the abstract. If you need any paper, we go to the abstract. If you need to read any book, any journal, any thesis, we go directly to the abstract. Also, so it should be provide a brief summary of each of the main sections. اللي قلناها, we call it ا.م.د. So a brief summary of these components of the paper. State the principal objective and scope of the investigation. Describe the method used in the abstract. Summarize the result and state the principal conclusion. So it is easier to write the abstract. As you know, we just bring this information, we put it in the abstract. So it is easier to write the abstract after completion of the paper. Now we move to the criteria of the abstract. It should not exceed more than 250 words. Sometimes they ask you, the journal, to the number of words. Some say 150, 200, but It should not exceed 250 words. It should be written in one paragraph. It should be written in the past tense, as it refers to the work done, to refer to the work done. So we use past simple tense. As you know, the past simple tense show that the work done. Long words should be followed by its abbreviation, which could be used throughout the abstract and the paper. I mean, when you use abbreviation in abstract, actually you already use it in your paper, so use it the same. It should not cite any references, cannot put any citation in abstract. It should never give any information or conclusion that is not stated in the paper. Good, now we bring the information in our paper to our abstract. Must be accurate with respect of figures quoted in the main text. So we mentioned the most important things in your paper, in your abstract. Now we move to the introduction. Introduction should answer the following questions. What was I studying? Why was this an important question? What did I know about this topic before I did this study? What model was I testing, and what approach did I take in this study? So we answer these questions to complete the introduction. This is many ask, what do we write in the introduction? So try to answer these questions in writing your introduction. Okay, suggested rules for good introductions. It should present the nature and the scope of the problem investigated. Review the pertinent literature. State the method of investigation. State the principal result of the investigation. State the principal conclusion suggested by the result. So we try also to bring the information we stated or we will mention in our paper according to the method, to the result, to conclusion in our paper. Now we move to general rules. We use present tense. Why? When referring to work that has already been published, it means becomes a rule. But past tense when referring to own study. You know how to differentiate between these? I mean, we use present simple tense when we mention the work that has already been published. When mentioned any published information, we use present simple tense. But when you use your own information, we use past simple tense. This is the difference between past and present. When we use present simple tense, means that it's become a rule. Becomes a rule. So we use it. We can use it anytime. This is the philosophy of using present simple tense. But past means that you use it, we are not published yet. Maybe inshallah in future we will publish, so will be used present simple tense. Avoid lengthy and confused review of previous research. Cite peer-reviewed scientific literature, scholarly reviews. We use impact factor information. We use it. Define any specialized term and abbreviation. Define. Don't forget to define any information, any term in your introduction. This is the idea. How to write the materials and method section. Now we move to materials and method section. Sorry. We use full details so that the experiments are reproducible. Because if the peer reviewer has doubted that the experiment could be repeated, the manuscript will be rejected, you know. If you use repeated action, so your paper will be what? Will be rejected. Try to organize the method under subheadings. Means that with related method, describe together. Means that, for example, subject, experimental design, measurement of hormonal assays, etc. Describe the experiment design in details. Do not mix some of the result in the section. Don't mix. Explain in details the result. Also, you need to write in the past tense because it is your own information, as I told you. Maybe in the future you can use present simple, but now it is your own language, it is your own experiment. So we use past tense. Now, the materials must identify accurately experimental animals, plants, and microorganisms used by genus, species, and strain. We use any materials. The source of subject studies number of individuals in each group, use their sex, age, and weight must be clearly stated. You know? If human subjects are used, the criteria for selection should be described on consent. For chemical use, include exact technical specification and source or method of preparation. Also, we should use. Avoid the use of trade names of chemical. Avoid use the trade names of chemicals. Generic or chemical names are preferred. Now the methods. This part of manuscript must be clear, precise, and concise so that can be reproducible. If the method is new, all details must be provided. We need to provide all the methods you use. If the method has been previously published in a scientific journals, only the reference should be given with some identification. It is okay, we can use it. Cells, for example, were broken by ultrasonic treatment as previously described by blah, blah, blah. So, preferable then cells were broken as previously described by, etc. So we can use, previous published in scientific journals. We can use it. But we need to mention, we put the citation, the reference should be given. How to write the results. Now we move to result section. We use the past tense also. Past tense, sometimes we use past perfect or present perfect. It means that you get the result from the past until now. We use present perfect. It is the core or heart of the paper. This is the result. It needs to be clearly and simply stated, since it constitutes the new knowledge contributed to the world. So it is important. Actually, the purpose of this section is to summarize and illustrate the findings in orderly and logical sequence without interpretation. So step by step, we mention our results. The text should guide the reader through the findings, stressing the major point. Do not describe methods that have already been described in M section or that have been individually omitted. So we need to mention them in the details because the result is the core of our paper. Now, the methods of presenting the data directly in the text, in a table, or in a figure. All figures and tables must be accompanied by the textual presentation of the key findings. I mean, we mention, or when you put all the data in a figure or table, you need to describe them. Explain why this result, why we put this number, explain. And method. Never have a table or figures that is not mentioned in the text. Means that don't give more details and you don't have this information in the table. We explain or describe the figure or the table. Now we move to the tables and figures. Tables are appropriate for large or complicated data sets that would be difficult to explain clearly in a text. Figures are appropriate for data sets that accept trends, patterns, or relationships that are best conveyed visually. Also, any table or figure must be sufficiently described by the title and caption or legend to be understandable without reading the main text of the result section. Actually, some journals specify or they order you to put the title up or down, put it in ordinary or how to label them. So according to the journal, we follow the journal instruction. Do not include both table and figure showing the same information. Either we use figure or table. Don't use the same information in table and figure. How to write the discussion. I noticed the hardest section to write. This is primarily purpose to show the relationship among observed facts. So it is difficult to compare or describe. It should end with a short summary or conclusion regarding the significance of the work. Now the components of the discussion. Try to present the principles, relationships, and generalization shown by the result. Also point out any exception or any lack of correlation and define unsettled points. We need to mention all these important information. Show how your result and interpretation agree or contrast with previously published work. We need to compare between them. Discuss, also we need to discuss the theoretical application of your work and any possible practical applications. Also we need to state conclusion as clearly as possible. And we need to summarize evidence for each conclusion. So we need to mention everything. Now we move to the easiest part of the research paper. Sometimes we already find this and just bring it and put names to acknowledge people. You should acknowledge any significant technical help that you have received from any individual in your lab or elsewhere. Also, the source of special equipment, cultures, or any other materials. And outside financial assistance, and this is important, we need to thank them, such as grants, contracts, or fellowship. Do not use the word wish. Simply write I thank and mention the name. I wish to thank or express my deep gratitude. عبر عن شكري وامتناني. Show the proposed wording of the acknowledgement to the person whose help you are acknowledgeable. I mean, sometimes your close friend you want to mention cannot, because your close friend or your relatives you want to mention him in your paper cannot. Just those who supported you in your research paper, you acknowledge them. This is the idea. Now references, it is the last part of research paper and my lecture. You know, what is the reference? Referencing is a standardized way of acknowledging the sources of information and ideas that you have used in your documents. This is the idea. A list of all the references used in the text must be written. Without references, there is no research paper. Reference format varies widely. Either we use Harvard format, alphabet number system, citation order system. Also, we have in citation here the name and year system, the alphabet number system. We need to use one of these. And reference list. Any paper not cited in the text should not be included. This is the idea. Reference list allow readers to investigate the subject in greater depth, and so on and so forth. Here, how to cite the book, journal, newspaper, encyclopedia, book article, etc., website. All these, I mentioned them. And ethics, right, and permission. Here it is important about plagiarism. Be aware of originality and copyright of others. It is important. Do not copy anything without giving the credit to the owner by referencing it. And here I use and I finish my lecture. Thank you very much. If you have any question, I'm ready to answer it. Thank you very much for your listening. I hope my lecture was useful and important for you. Thank you very much.